We are facing an existential threat unlike ever before, gamers. If you have ever respected anything I have to say, you are an absolute fool. But if you are going to respect anything I have to say, we must band together to stop Concord. If it is permitted by the gaming community to succeed, this will be the end of gaming. Nah, we got nothing to do with this one. If you're going to do anything, sit back and have a laugh as journalists scramble to keep this stillborn dumpster baby's heart beating. We don't have to do anything, and we never have to respect what I have to say. Concord got exactly what they wanted, and deserved. We should all be so happy for the studio for not having any toxic, patriarchal, incel gamers playing the game, and only the elevated, superior race activists and journalists have deigned to grace their game with their hallowed presence. 8 years to make, right as Overwatch came out. This is the most comical form of seeing the perfect recipe and executing it by executing it. Consultants and journalists adore this game. This may be the most hyped up DEI-pleasing game ever made. This is what anyone would describe when given the phrase woke game, and it has completely captured the entire audience of terminally online woke gamers. $100 million to $250 million plus. Huge budget, but no budgets for cinematics and motion capture animations. It has failed on every measure. No part of it is good. It spent so much on visuals, but its high graphical quality of something that looks extremely ugly. People are suggesting it needs to go free to play, and it likely will start by being put on PS Plus. However, that is going to do nothing to save it. If it goes free to play, it has to rely fully on cosmetic sales. But there's not a single hero worth buying a cosmetic for in this game. It will be dead by the time it goes free to play, and it won't get much of a revitalization. But even if it did manage to get a small group when it does, it still won't matter because no size of audience is going to buy cosmetics. This leaves it with two choices. Either stay paid and die in a month, or go free and not make any money. This is going to be a game where they have lost 100% effectively of everything they spent on it. There's never been a flop of this magnitude in gaming, movies, or television. I want to make this very clear. When I say Concord cannot succeed, I do not mean as a $40 game. I do not mean as a free on PlayStation Plus or Game Pass kind of game. I do not mean as completely free to play and supported by cosmetics. I mean there is literally not a thing they can do for this game to make it a success. It will never have a large player base playing it. It will never make money through sales or through MTX. Concord cannot succeed. End of story. And I will be proven right. Because at some point they are going to try all sorts of things to salvage this $100 million or more project, and that's a lot of money after all. Every single one of them is going to fail. End of story. A week from launch, PC players are already struggling with matchmaking. This may be the fastest dead game in live service history, especially for a studio backed by something as big as Sony. So, Concord cannot be allowed to succeed? I admit, I did a bit of title baiting. I'm a nuisance, what can I say? Concord cannot succeed because it brought none of the talent, none of the planning, and none of the execution required for a prize fighter ready to take on a competitive industry. There is never, and will never, be a game this atrocious. And what a way to close off a year of brutal DEI flops, starting with Kill the Justice League. But now, it's over. Going forward, any company that has seen this and still puts hundreds of millions into these projects is just straight up laundering money. There will never again. Sweet Mother of Mercy. South Park is pretty good at predicting things, but this game makes PC Principal and the Pandaverse look amateurish. Do you want parody? Imagine an anti-establishment game celebrating cancellation, bullying, terrorism, and harassment under the guise of being cool, government fighting radicals. All the while, the game is funded by the government to the tune of $2 million and parrots the rhetoric of the largest global corporations and moneylenders, and stars a cast that despises capitalism and the wealthy while living in some of the most lavish apartments in the world. Now, consider that these guys fight by using words to manipulate, mind control, mentally break and bully, gaslight and harm people, often for no reason other than they had an opinion different from the main character, even going so far as to force people to Minecraft themselves in Minecraft. This is a story of ultra-narcissistic, wealthy, privileged, violent, psychotic abuser with zero morality who delights in mentally torturing and tormenting everyone they come across until they obey or cower before them. They even mind-crush their own close friends until they are forced to become slaves to their whim and... Holy crap, this game is starting to sound awesome. What am I doing? Problem is, though, there's no self-awareness. This is the perfect setup for jokes, yet without any punchlines. Because this is not a commentary on the spoiled rich kids who are so devoid of any struggle in their life that someone saying a mean thing on social media paralyzes them for an hour, but the millionaire therapy session of a bunch of people who have never had to do a hard thing in their life. To be handed a truckload of cash with no strings and given a grossly unfair advantage against all other artists and game developers struggling to compete in a very competitive industry, and yet turn those millions of dollars into a game that can't even break 100 players, even with the content creators eager to turn it into something to mock, is downright astonishing. Dustborn is the perfect encapsulation of the tiny group of obnoxious, loud, abusive twits who have spent the last 2 decades ripping apart entertainment IPs and industries like locusts. And they can't even get 100 people playing the game? Because as we all know, and corporations are very slowly beginning to understand, these people do not play games. They do not support anything they preach about. And for both Dustborn and Concord, they showed up on social media. They made their presence known. They were loud. They were obnoxious. They just didn't spend any money. They do not exist the moment they need to put their money where their mouth is. These games need to fail, and these games will fail. Not because of influencers, not because of toxic gamers, but because of the people that are pandered to, that dedicate themselves to screaming, to taking, to destroying. But they never give, they never support. Not even for the things that are perfectly crafted just for them.